Greetings, everyone. My name is Charles Kovach, the not safe for work presidential candidate, campaigning for a more direct democracy. And because simply saying I want a more direct democracy over and over and over again gets kind of repetitive and boring and no one wants to hear it, I make videos talking about current topics and things that catch my eye and basically talk about different bullshit that we have to deal with in ways that we're getting screwed over. So, the first thing I would like to talk about is I have a friend who's running for office in local government. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because, of course, we get into a political discussion. And one of the things that she mentioned, which I found rather odd, especially since I alluded to the topic in a previous video this week, she mentioned that she felt that people should get rewarded for their risks and investments. My response was, well, I didn't get to say all of my response, but my response, if I was able to complete my response, would have been, so you're saying that people should be rewarded for essentially gambling, even though it's not in a casino, but what about the people who may take risks such as what they choose to study, where they choose to work, and how much of that risk of investment goes both ways? Both the person who has money saying, hey, I'm going to spend this money to provide jobs so this product or service can be delivered to people, and the person who decides, okay, I'm going to work at this job so that this product and service or service could be delivered to a person or can be delivered to people. So how much of that risk should be rewarded on both sides? She said that my argument was a straw man. And this was only simply from the part of me saying that her argument is that people should be rewarded for gambling and getting paid out. So I found that rather interesting, and I thought it was worth mentioning. Not only because of that, but because one of the people that I do follow is Richard Wolff, who runs the Democracy at Work channel. And tomorrow there will be a video on this channel basically saying the same thing that I'm saying right now. I get early access. So that's why I wanted to mention all that, because I hear this argument over and over again. And, well, basically, you can watch the video from Professor Wolff tomorrow if you're so inclined, and you can hear him explain it in a much better way than I can. And because it's a thing in the news, Hillary Clinton, who I like to call Fembush, decided to take pot shots at Tulsi Gabbard for continuing to promote this whole, stupid Russiagate bullshit. Yeah. I mean, there are people that are talking about Fembush teasing running again, but I don't see it. I think at this point, she knows that pretty much everybody hates her, and her husband, and basically everything having to do with them. And basically most of the Democratic establishment as well. So, yeah. I'm just going to say that was pretty stupid of her on many levels and just leave it at that. I mean, I have my problems with Gabbard, but her potentially being a Russian asset or a Assad apologist is not one of those. Now let's talk about some interesting things coming out of courts. Apparently, Georgia is going to the Supreme Court because it wants to copyright its laws. So, does that mean we're not supposed to know what the laws are in Georgia? The specifics of their case is that they're trying to say that the annotations made to the laws are what are copyrightable and therefore cannot be reproduced. So what does that mean if you don't have an internet connection and can't see the laws or have no access to them in the first place? You can't have a replication of them. Not to mention the fact that somebody argued, which I thought was a very outstanding argument, but that anytime you amend a law that is also technically an annotation to the law because you are making changes and so forth. But yeah, there's all kinds of fucked up shit about this. And speaking of fucked up shit, there's a hearing that was just ruled on. Kareem versus the CIA, most notably Haspel, the director of the CIA. Kareem wanted to know if he was on the CIA's kill list. And so he took the CIA to court to find out if he would be on the kill, if he is on the kill list. And the court said, no, you can't find out if you're on the kill list. Now, I can see arguments for saying, no, you can't find out because then everybody could find out and then there would be no secrecy. However, it would be really nice if we had like this document that gave us something like, I don't know, rights, and we could have this whole section called, you know, the Bill of Rights. That might be a good idea, and maybe we could make like the fourth article of this Bill of Rights a right to due process, because I don't know, just having the whole ability of saying, hey, we're going to kill you without giving you a fair trial just seems like a bad idea. So maybe a right to due process, I think that would be good at number 4 in this Bill of Rights. But then we'd have to also make sure that in this document it would say that you can't write any laws that goes against what this document says. But I mean, I don't think I've seen anything like that. But this is just more of the corruption that we have to deal with and stuff we are forced to accept. Although I don't accept it. I never have. Speaking of corruption, let's talk about the militarized profiteers. You know, you still know them as the police, but... So a man died in a jail, a man with mental illness, I believe he was bipolar. He was requesting medical help, he was in solitary confinement, and the police ignored him. The man died in jail from dehydration. So, yeah. And then beyond that, you have this whole situation in Dallas-Fort Worth where a policeman apparently gets called out for a wellness check. And I don't know who thinks it's a good idea to go roaming around the house because of a wellness check, you know, roaming around outside someone's house. But I seen the body cam footage. And all of a sudden looking into a window saying, hands up, bang, bang, doesn't seem like a good idea. Doesn't seem like something that a well-trained person would do. Or someone whose interest of the people was actually, who the people was actually their primary interest. I showed you I had a sword the other day. The sword is a weapon. When you take a weapon out, you should expect that somebody's probably going to get hurt or die. This is the same thing with a gun. Okay? Guns and swords are both designed to do the same thing. Take out the other guy. Possibly before they take out you. But, as I've said before, with our enforcement institutions, especially since many of them are privatized, that such training like this and such important factors like this never reach the people who put on the uniform. They're just given a gun, a minimal amount of training, go out and do stuff. Do what you're told. And when you think about this stuff, what comes to mind is the fact that even though the institution of policing as a whole is a corrupt garbage fire, that there are some decent people that become cops because they want to put on a uniform and save lives. So even though people do stuff like this, some people, it takes a toll on them. Just like when in the military and people go off and fight wars, they come back with PTSD because of the things they've seen and also having killed people themselves. Makes me kind of think that's kind of the whole intent. Because when you do something and you live with such regret, it eats away at you. And it just breaks you apart over time. So eventually, you develop your own mental illness. But that's kind of the thing of why there's so much outrage over the existence of the Joker movie, right? What has the common narrative been for a long time now is to demonize people who deal with mental illness in one way or another. And look what happens. You get mass shootings. You get all kinds of bad situations that happen. And then eventually those people get killed. And then somebody else takes their place because they've been put in a position where they do something that gives them regret or something else that they've just experienced that eats away at them. So it becomes this whole cycle of just eliminating people until the only ones left are the ones that simply follow orders and kill without question. And this is how many people that claim or that vie for power and wealth want things to be. They want people that take orders. This is why military training was changed about a century ago, because people weren't killing each other enough when they were fighting in wars. This pathology of dehumanizing people is problematic. And we have to stop it. We have to stop thinking of people in that way. Because ultimately, if we don't put a stop to all this now, the people that are pulling the strings and causing so much heartache in our lives, and I mean the extremely wealthy and powerful, they're going to destroy us all, starting with themselves. Remember, no one is an island. And now that I've said all that depressing stuff, let me end on some good news. The man in Ohio who was charged with misconduct during an emergency situation, the charges have been dropped against him an hour before the case began, and due to some outside pressure, probably, but at least it's a little bit of good news. And I will leave it at that. If a more direct democracy is something you want, then please spread the word about this campaign. And I thank you for your time.